Maya Johnson walked quickly through the busy airport. She checked her watch and frowned. Her flight to San Francisco would start boarding soon, and she still needed to get through security. As the new CEO of Horizon Airlines, Maya had an important meeting to attend. The board members were waiting for her to present her vision for the company's future. Maya was 38 years old and had worked very hard to reach this position. Just last month, the board had chosen her to lead the airline. She was the first black woman to become CEO of a major airline in the United States. Many news outlets had covered her appointment, but Maya preferred to keep a low profile. She believed her work should speak for itself. Today she wore simple blue jeans and a plain white blouse. Her curly hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she wore minimal jewelry, just small pearl earrings her grandmother had given her. Maya could have used the private company jet, but she preferred to fly on regular flights. She wanted to experience what her customers experienced. Last call. For TSA pre-check passengers, a voice announced over the speakers. Maya hurried to the security line. Thankfully, the pre-check line moved quickly. She placed her small carry-on bag on the conveyor belt and walked through the scanner. 5 minutes later, she was putting her laptop back in her bag and slipping her shoes back on. Gate C-45. She muttered to herself, looking at her boarding pass. Maya checked the airport signs and turned right. She had about 10 minutes to get to her gate. The airport was crowded that Monday morning. Business travelers in suits rushed past families with young children. Maya weaved through the crowd, apologizing when she accidentally bumped into people. When she finally reached gate C-45, she saw that boarding had already started. Group 1 is now boarding, the gate agent announced. Maya approached the counter and smiled at the agent. His name tag read, Greg Peters. He was a thin man with graying hair and small glasses. "Good morning," Maya said, handing him her boarding pass and ID. "I think I'm in Group 1. Greg barely looked at her documents. He glanced at Maya, taking in her casual clothes and simple appearance. His eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm sorry, but first class is already boarding. You'll need to wait for general boarding," he said with a dismissive tone. Maya was confused. "I have a first-class ticket," she explained, pointing to her boarding pass. Greg looked at her boarding pass again, this time more carefully. His expression remained doubtful. "Ma'am, this section is for first-class passengers only," he repeated. Maya took a deep breath. She had faced this kind of treatment before. People often made assumptions about her based on her appearance. "Yes, I understand," she said calmly, "and I have a first-class ticket, as you can see right there." She pointed again to the clear first-class marking on her boarding pass. Other passengers were lining up behind her. Some were sighing impatiently. Maya felt her cheeks grow warm, but she kept her voice steady. Greg frowned and looked at her ID again. "Johnson, Maya Johnson," he read aloud. Something seemed to click in his mind. "Wait, are you—" "I'm just trying to board my flight," Maya interrupted. She didn't want special treatment. She just wanted to be treated like any other first-class passenger. Greg hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, I apologize for the confusion." He scanned her boarding pass and handed back her documents. "Have a nice flight, Ms. Johnson." Maya nodded and walked down the jetway to the plane. A flight attendant named Allison Miller greeted passengers at the door. She was a blonde woman in her 30s with a bright smile. "Welcome aboard," Allison said. "May I see your boarding pass?" Maya handed it to her. Allison glanced at it quickly. "Your seat is that way," she said, pointing toward the economy section at the back of the plane. "I think there's a mistake," Maya said. "I have a first-class seat, 2A. Allison looked at the boarding pass again. "Oh, I see," she said, but she didn't sound convinced. "First class is this way." She pointed half-heartedly toward the front of the plane, but made no move to guide Maya there. Maya thanked her and walked toward the first-class cabin. The seats were large and comfortable, arranged in pairs. Most were already occupied by passengers who were settling in with pre-flight drinks. Maya found seat 2A by the window and put her bag in the overhead compartment. As she was about to sit down, Allison appeared beside her. "Excuse me," the flight attendant said, her voice low but firm. There seems to be some confusion. Could I see your boarding pass again? Maya was getting tired of this, but she remained polite. She took her boarding pass from her pocket and showed it to Allison. See? Seat 2A, first class. Allison examined the boarding pass with a frown. Just a moment, she said, and walked away. Maya sat down and took a deep breath. She reached for her phone to check her emails while waiting for the plane to take off. A few minutes later, she noticed a shadow falling over her. She looked up to see a tall man in a pilot's uniform standing in the aisle. His captain's stripes gleamed on his shoulders and his name tag read, Frank Daniels. His face was stern. Is there a problem here? He asked, looking directly at Maya. No problem at all, Maya replied, confused by his presence. The flight attendant says you're insisting on sitting in first class, Frank said. Maya blinked in surprise. Because I have a first-class ticket, she explained, holding up her boarding pass yet again. Seat 2A. Frank didn't take the boarding pass. Instead, he crossed his arms over his chest. Ma'am, we need to keep this flight on schedule. If you're going to cause a disturbance, I'll have to ask you to leave the aircraft. Maya was shocked. A disturbance? I'm simply sitting in the seat I paid for. Other passengers were watching now. The cabin had gone quiet. Maya felt uncomfortable but refused to be intimidated. Captain Daniels, she said, reading his name tag. I'm not causing any disturbance. I'm just trying to sit in my assigned seat. Here's my boarding pass. She held it out again. The captain still didn't take it. Listen, we have procedures to follow, he said, his voice growing impatient. Either take the seat you've been offered or we'll have to ask you to leave the aircraft. Just then, a passenger sitting across the aisle spoke up. He was an older white man in a business suit. Excuse me, he said. I couldn't help overhearing. This woman does have a first-class ticket. I saw it clearly. Why are you treating her differently? The cabin grew even quieter. Frank looked at the man, then back at Maya. His jaw tightened. Another flight attendant approached. Her name tag read Denise Watson. She was a black woman about Maya's age. Is everything okay here? Denise asked, looking between Maya and the captain. Could you please check this passenger's boarding pass? Frank asked, his tone clipped. Denise took Maya's boarding pass and looked at it. Yes, this is correct. Seat 2A. She handed it back to Maya with an apologetic smile. Frank's face flushed red. He nodded stiffly and turned to leave without a word to Maya. Can I get you a drink before takeoff? Denise asked Maya. Water would be nice, thank you. Maya replied, her heart still beating fast from the confrontation. As Maya settled into her seat, she overheard Frank talking to Allison near the cockpit door. His voice was low, but she could make out his words clearly. These people always causing problems, he muttered, holding up the whole flight. Maya froze. She couldn't believe what she was hearing, especially not from the captain of one of her own company's planes. She had faced discrimination before, but this was different. This time she was in a position to do something about it. She took out her phone and dialed a number. Maya's fingers trembled slightly as she dialed the number. She took a deep breath to calm herself. The phone rang 3 times before someone answered. Alan Carter speaking, said a deep voice. Hello, Alan. This is Maya Johnson, she said, keeping her voice low. I need you to contact ground operations immediately. Flight 372 will be delayed. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. Maya, what's happening? Alan sounded confused. I've just experienced discrimination on one of our own flights, Maya explained. As CEO of this airline, I can't allow this to continue. The passengers seated nearby who overheard her conversation fell silent in shock. One man nearly choked on his complimentary orange juice. The flight attendants who were preparing for takeoff exchanged nervous glances. You're on Flight 372 to San Francisco? Alan asked for confirmation. Yes, Maya replied. I need this plane to return to the gate, and I want security and HR representatives to meet us there. Consider it done, Alan said without hesitation. Give me 10 minutes. Maya ended the call and placed her phone in her lap. Her heart was racing, but her mind was clear. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had ever been judged by their appearance rather than their character or credentials. The older white man who had spoken up for her earlier leaned across the aisle. "Excuse me," he said quietly. I couldn't help overhearing. "Are you really the CEO?" Maya nodded. "Maya Johnson," she said, extending her hand. "I took over as CEO of Horizon Airlines last month." The man shook her hand. "I'm Paul Harris. I fly with Horizon at least twice a month for business." He shook his head in disbelief. "What happened to you just now was completely unacceptable. I'm glad you're taking action." "Thank you for speaking up earlier," Maya said. "Not everyone would have done that." Paul shrugged. It was the right thing to do. The intercom crackled to life. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking," Frank's voice announced. "We're just waiting for final clearance from the tower and then we'll be on our way. Flight time to San Francisco will be approximately 3 hours and 20 minutes. Weather conditions are—" The captain's announcement was interrupted by another voice coming through his headset. The passengers couldn't hear what was being said, but they could see Frank's reaction through the open cockpit door. His face flushed red, and he gripped the controls tightly. "What do you mean, return to the gate?" he demanded, forgetting that his microphone was still on and that all the passengers could hear him. "We're ready for takeoff." There was a pause as he listened to the response. "On whose authority?" he asked angrily. After another pause, his face went pale. He switched off his microphone, but it was too late. The damage was done. Denise, the flight attendant who had been kind to Maya, approached her seat. "Ms. Johnson," she said quietly, "is everything okay?" Maya looked up at her. "No, it's not," she replied honestly, "but it will be." The plane began to taxi back toward the gate. The passengers murmured among themselves, wondering what was happening. Some looked anxious, others annoyed. A few who had overheard Maya's phone call or the captain's outburst were watching her with interest. Allison, the first flight attendant who had tried to direct Maya to economy class, walked down the aisle with a forced smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay. We need to return to the gate briefly. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." When she passed Maya's seat, she avoided eye contact. 10 minutes later, the plane was back at the gate. The door was opened and 3 people boarded. 2 airport security officers and a man in a business suit who Maya recognized as Alan Carter, the chief operations officer of Horizon Airlines. Alan spotted Maya and walked directly to her seat. "Maya," he said, his voice full of concern. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Alan," she assured him. "But we have a serious problem that needs to be addressed." Frank emerged from the cockpit, his face a mixture of confusion and anger. When he saw the Br. Alan, his expression changed to one of worry. "Mr. Carter," he said, "what's going on? We were cleared for takeoff." Alan turned to face him. "Captain Daniels, we've received a serious complaint about your behavior." Frank's eyes darted to Maya, then back to Alan. "I don't know what you're talking about." Maya stood up. The cabin was completely silent now. All eyes were on her. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice clear and steady, "I apologize for the delay. My name is Maya Johnson and I am the CEO of Horizon Airlines." A wave of whispers swept through the cabin. Frank's face turned pale. "What happened today reflects a culture that I will not tolerate in my company," Maya continued. "When I boarded this flight with a first-class ticket, I was repeatedly directed to economy class. When I politely insisted on my assigned seat, Captain Daniels threatened to have me removed from the aircraft without even checking my boarding pass." She turned to face Frank directly. "And then I heard you refer to me as these people and complain that I was causing problems simply for expecting to be treated like any other first-class passenger." Frank's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Horizon Airlines has a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind, Maya said firmly. "That policy applies to everyone, including pilots with 20 years of experience." She looked at Alan and nodded. He stepped forward. "Captain Daniels, you're relieved of your duties, effective immediately," Alan announced. "Please gather your belongings and leave the aircraft." Frank's face flushed with anger. "You can't do this. It's a misunderstanding." Your comments were heard by multiple witnesses, Alan replied calmly. Security will escort you off the plane. The two security officers moved to stand beside Frank. After a moment of tense silence, he turned and walked back to the cockpit to collect his things. Maya turned to Allison, who was standing frozen near the front of the cabin. Ms. Miller, you will also report to HR upon our arrival in San Francisco. Allison nodded, her face pale. An uncomfortable silence filled the cabin as Frank gathered his belongings and was escorted off the plane. Some passengers looked shocked, others impressed. A few were recording the scene on their phones. Alan leaned close to Maya. We have Captain Linda Rodriguez on standby. She can take over the flight. Good, Maya replied. And I'd like a full investigation into how widespread these attitudes might be in our company. Already on it, Alan assured her. I've called an emergency meeting of the executive team for tomorrow morning. Captain Linda Rodriguez boarded the plane 5 minutes later. She was a Latina woman in her 40s with a confident stride. She nodded respectfully to Maya before heading to the cockpit. Maya returned to her seat, aware that many passengers were watching her with newfound respect. Paul Harris leaned across the aisle again. That was impressive, he said. Not many CEOs would take such immediate action. Maya smiled slightly. When something is wrong, you fix it. That's what leadership is about. The plane began to taxi toward the runway again. This time the atmosphere in the cabin was different. There was a sense of tension, but also of justice being served. Denise approached with a glass of water. Ms. Johnson, she said quietly. Thank you. Maya took the water. You have nothing to thank me for. This is how things should be. Always. As the plane accelerated down the runway and lifted into the air, Maya looked out the window at the city below. She had not planned to start her day this way, but perhaps it was necessary. Change didn't always come from carefully planned initiatives and policy documents. Sometimes it came from standing your ground when someone tried to move you from the seat you had rightfully earned. The rest of the flight to San Francisco was peaceful. Maya spent most of the time reviewing documents on her tablet for the board meeting. Every now and then, she noticed passengers glancing at her with curiosity and respect. Word had spread throughout the plane about what had happened. Captain Linda Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom as they began their descent. Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our final approach to San Francisco International Airport. The local time is 11:45 a.m., and the weather is sunny with a temperature of 68 degrees. On behalf of Horizon Airlines, I want to thank you for your patience today. We should be at the gate in about 15 minutes. Maya put away her tablet and looked out the window. The city of San Francisco spread out below, with the Golden Gate Bridge visible in the distance. She thought about the board meeting ahead and how this morning's events might change what she planned to say. When the plane landed and taxied to the gate, Maya remained in her seat as other passengers gathered their belongings. She noticed many of them nodding or smiling at her as they passed by. A few even stopped to shake her hand or offer words of support. "Thank you for standing up like that," said an elderly black woman as she passed Maya's seat. "It means a lot to see someone in your position taking action." "My daughter wants to be a pilot," another passenger told her. "It's good for her to know there are people like you making sure she'll be treated fairly." Maya thanked them for their kind words. As the cabin emptied, Alan Carter appeared at her side. "The car's waiting to take you to headquarters," he said, "and I've arranged for Allison Miller to meet with HR right away." "Good," Maya said, as she stood and gathered her things. "What about the board meeting?" I called ahead. "They're waiting. For you. But they understand the delay." Alan hesitated, then added, "Some news outlets have already picked up the story. Someone on the plane must have posted about it online." Maya nodded. She had expected this. "We'll need to prepare a statement." "Communications is already working on a draft," Alan assured her. They walked through the empty plane to the exit. Captain Rodriguez was standing by the cockpit door. "Captain," Maya said, extending her hand. "Thank you for stepping in today." Linda shook her hand firmly. "It was my honor, Ms. Johnson, and thank you for what you did. It's been needed for a long time." Maya nodded. We'll talk more soon. I have some ideas I'd like to discuss with you. Outside the plane, Denise Watson was waiting in the jetway. She looked nervous. Ms. Johnson, she said quickly, I just wanted to say that not everyone at Horizon thinks like Captain Daniels. Most of us are good people who want to do our jobs well. I know that, Denise, Maya said with a smile. And I'm counting on people like you to help make Horizon better. Denise looked relieved. Thank you. I've been with the company for 12 years and I've seen things. If you ever want to know more, I'd be happy to talk. Maya took out a business card and handed it to her. Email me directly. My door is always open. Maya and Alan walked through the terminal toward the exit. Many people stopped to stare or take pictures with their phones. It seemed news of the incident was spreading fast. Your car is just outside, Alan said as they approached the doors. Actually, Maya said, let's take a regular taxi to headquarters. I want to keep experiencing things the way our customers do. Alan nodded, though he looked surprised. They walked outside and joined the taxi line. Do you think I made the right call? Maya asked quietly as they waited. Firing Frank on the spot like that? Absolutely, Alan replied without hesitation. It sent a clear message that this kind of behavior won't be tolerated no matter who you are. The company needed to see that. Some people will say I overreacted. Some people always say that when discrimination is called out, Alan said. But the facts speak for themselves. Multiple witnesses heard what he said. Their taxi arrived and they climbed in. Alan gave the driver the address of Horizon Airlines headquarters. Horizon Airlines? The driver asked, looking at them in the rear-view mirror. You two work there? Yes, Maya replied simply. You hear about what happened this morning? The CEO fired a pilot right on the plane for some racist stuff. It's all over Twitter. The driver shook his head. About time someone took a stand like that. Maya and Alan exchanged glances but didn't reveal who they were. The driver continued talking as he drove, sharing his own experiences with discrimination while traveling. Maya listened carefully, making mental notes. When they arrived at the Horizon headquarters, a modern glass building in downtown San Francisco, several news vans were parked outside. Reporters stood near the entrance with cameras and microphones. They work fast, Alan muttered. We can go in through the garage if you prefer. Maya shook her head. No, I have nothing to hide. They paid the taxi driver and walked toward the entrance. As soon as the reporters spotted them, they rushed forward. Ms. Johnson, can you confirm reports that you fired a pilot mid-flight today? Was this a planned inspection of your staff? Do you believe there's a culture of racism at Horizon Airlines? Maya stopped and faced the reporters. Alan stood protectively beside her. I'll make a brief statement, she said calmly. The reporters immediately fell silent, microphones extended toward her. This morning I experienced discrimination on one of our own flights. As CEO of Horizon Airlines, it was my duty to address it immediately. We have a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind, and that policy applies to everyone, regardless of their position. I took action consistent with our company values, and I stand by that decision. Will there be changes at Horizon following this incident? One reporter called out. Maya nodded. Yes. This incident has shown me that we need to do more to ensure that our values are reflected in our everyday operations. I'll be announcing specific changes in the coming days. For now, I have a board meeting to attend. Thank you. With that, she turned and walked into the building, Alan following close behind. Employees in the lobby stared as she passed. Some applauded softly. The board is waiting in the main conference room, said Kelly Brown, Maya's assistant, who met them at the elevator. They've all seen the news. How are they reacting? Alan asked. Mixed, Kelly admitted. Some are concerned about the publicity, others are supportive. And the chairman? Maya asked as they stepped into the elevator. Mr. Phillips called me, twice asking when you'd arrive. He seemed anxious. Maya took a deep breath as the elevator climbed to the top floor. She had prepared extensively for this meeting, her first major presentation to the board as CEO. She had planned to talk about new routes, cost-cutting measures, and her vision for Horizon's future. Now she knew she needed to address something more fundamental. The elevator doors opened, and Maya walked confidently down the hallway to the conference room. She could hear voices inside, some raised in what sounded like heated discussion. When she opened the door, the room fell silent. 12. People sat around a large table. William Phillips, the chairman of the board, rose from his seat at the head of the table. "Maya," he said, his expression unreadable. "I think you have some explaining to do." Maya looked around the room at the board members' faces. Some looked concerned, others curious. A few seemed angry. This was her moment of truth. Everything she had worked for in her career had led to this point. She placed her bag on the table and stood tall. "Yes," she said firmly. "I do have something to explain. I need to explain my vision for Horizon Airlines. Not just as a profitable company, but as a company where every employee and every customer is treated with dignity and respect. What happened today showed me that we have work to do, and I'd like to tell you exactly how I plan to do it." The room was silent as Maya began to speak. Maya spoke to the board for nearly an hour. She explained exactly what had happened on the flight and why she had taken such immediate action. As she talked, she noticed the expressions on the board members' faces changing. Even those who had seemed angry at first were now listening with greater understanding. "What I experienced today is not unique," Maya said. "Many of our customers face similar treatment every day. The difference is that I was in a position to do something about it." William Phillips, the chairman, leaned forward. He was an older white man with gray hair and serious eyes. "I understand why you took action, Maya, but firing a senior pilot on the spot in front of passengers, that's going to cost us. Frank Daniels has been with the company for 20 years. And in those 20 years, how many passengers has he treated poorly?" Maya asked. "How many employees has he made feel unwelcome? The real cost is in keeping people like that in positions of power." Another board member, Susan Lee, nodded in agreement. "I think Maya's right. This incident gives us an opportunity to make real changes at Horizon." "What kind of changes?" asked Robert Green, another board member who seemed skeptical. Maya moved to the whiteboard and picked up a marker. "I've been thinking about this during the flight. We need a complete review of our training programs, not just for pilots and flight attendants, but for everyone who interacts with the public. Gate agents, customer service representatives, everyone." Wrote training review on the board. "We also need to look at our hiring practices," she continued. "Our staff should reflect the diversity of our customers." She added inclusive hiring to the list. "And most importantly, we need to create clear ways for employees and customers to report problems when they happen, and we need to show that we take those reports seriously." For the next half hour, Maya outlined her plan in detail. The board members asked questions and offered suggestions. Some raised concerns about costs, but Maya was prepared for that. "Think of it as an investment," she said. "When people know they'll be treated with respect on our airlines, they'll choose us over our competitors. That's good business." By the end of the meeting, even William Phillips seemed convinced. "I have to admit, Maya, when I first heard what happened, I thought you might have been too hasty. But you've clearly thought this through." "This isn't something I just came up with today," Maya replied. "I've been thinking about these issues throughout my career. Today just showed me that we need to address them sooner rather than later." The board voted unanimously to support Maya's plan. As the meeting ended, board members came up to shake her hand and offer their support. Susan Lee was the last to leave. "I've been on this board for 5 years," she told Maya. "This is the first time we've really talked about these issues. It took courage to bring them up." "It shouldn't take courage to talk about treating people with dignity," Maya said. After the board members left, Alan came back into the room. "How did it go?" he asked. "Better than I expected," Maya replied. "They're on board with the changes I want to make." She looked at her watch. "What's happening with Allison Miller?" "HR just finished their interview with her," Alan said. Apparently, she admitted that there's been an unspoken practice among some staff to question passengers who don't look like they belong in first class. Maya shook her head in disgust. Who decides what a first-class passenger looks like? Exactly. HR is going to interview other flight attendants to see how widespread this is. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Kelly, her assistant. The communications team has a draft statement ready for your review. Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes, Maya replied. She turned back to Alan. We need to move quickly on this. I want to announce our new initiatives before the end of the week. That's aggressive, Alan said. Are you sure we can pull it together that fast? We have to, Maya said firmly. This isn't just about one incident or one pilot. It's about changing the culture of our entire company. They walked together to the communications department where the team was waiting with a draft press release. Maya read it carefully. This is too defensive, she said. We're not just responding to a crisis, we're taking the lead on making real changes. She picked up a pen and began editing the document. Let's be clear about what happened and what we're going to do about it. For the next hour, Maya worked with the communications team to craft a statement that was both honest about the incident and forward-looking about the changes to come. When they finished, the head of communications, Derek Hall, looked impressed. This is strong, Maya. It doesn't shy away from the problem. That's the point, Maya said. No more hiding or making excuses. Just as they were wrapping up, Kelly rushed into the room. Maya, you need to see this. She handed Maya her tablet, which was open to a social media page. A passenger from the flight had posted a video of the moment when Maya had revealed she was the CEO and had confronted Captain Daniels. The video had already been viewed over 1 million times, and the comments were overwhelmingly supportive. You're trending, Kelly said. Maya scrolled through the comments. About time someone took a stand. This is what leadership looks like. Respect to Maya Johnson and Horizon Airlines for doing the right thing. There were some negative comments. 2 people saying she had overreacted or was playing the race card. But they were in the minority. Well, Maya said, handing the tablet back to Kelly. I guess there's no turning back now. Would you want to? Alan asked. Maya shook her head. No. This needed to happen. Her phone rang. It was Denise Watson, the flight attendant from the plane. Ms. Johnson, Denise said when Maya answered. I hope it's okay that I called. You said your door was open. It is, Maya assured her. What's on your mind? I've been talking with some of the other flight attendants. After what happened today, a lot of us want to share our experiences, things we've seen or heard that weren't right. I'd like to hear them, Maya said. Can you gather everyone who wants to talk and meet me tomorrow morning? Yes, ma'am, Denise replied, sounding relieved. And thank you. After ending the call, Maya turned to Alan. We're going to need a bigger conference room tomorrow. The flight attendants want to talk. Alan nodded. I'll arrange it. By the end of the day, Maya was exhausted but satisfied with what they had accomplished. The press release had gone out, and the response was mostly positive. The board was supportive of her plans, and employees were coming forward with their own stories and suggestions. As she gathered her things to head to her hotel, Kelly came in with one last update. Frank Daniels is threatening to sue for wrongful termination. Maya wasn't surprised. Let him try. We have multiple witnesses who heard what he said. He's claiming it was taken out of context. There's no context that makes what he said acceptable, Maya replied firmly. Our lawyers can handle it. Outside, the sun was setting over San Francisco. Maya took a moment to watch the golden light reflecting off the buildings. This wasn't how she had planned to start her tenure as CEO, but perhaps it was exactly what the company needed. Her car arrived to take her to her hotel. As they drove through the city, Maya thought about the days ahead. There would be challenges, and resistance, no doubt. Change was never easy, but today had shown her that many people were ready for it, even eager for it. Her phone buzzed with another message. It was from Paul Harris, the passenger who had spoken up for her on the plane. Just saw the news, his message read. Proud to be a Horizon customer today. Keep leading the way. Maya smiled and typed a reply. Thank you for being an ally when it mattered. She put her phone away and looked out at the city lights. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight she felt certain she was on the right path. 6 months had passed since that fateful flight. Maya sat in her office at Horizon Airlines headquarters, looking out at the San Francisco skyline. On her desk was a framed newspaper article with the headline, Horizon Airlines named industry leader in diversity and customer satisfaction. She smiled as she remembered how much had changed in such a short time. The day after the incident, over 30 flight attendants had gathered to share their experiences. Their stories had been eye-opening, revealing problems that went far beyond one pilot or one flight. Maya had listened carefully to each person. Then she had acted. Within a week, she had announced a comprehensive plan to transform Horizon Airlines. The plan had 3 main parts: better training for all employees, more diverse hiring at all levels, and a new system for reporting and addressing discrimination. Some people had doubted that real change was possible in such an old-fashioned industry. But Maya had proven them wrong. There was a knock on her office door. It was Alan Carter, who had been her right-hand man throughout the changes. "The new training videos are ready for your final approval," he said, placing a tablet on her desk. "And the first group of new pilots has completed the expanded training program." "How did they do?" Maya asked. "Excellent," Alan replied with a smile. "Captain Rodriguez says they're the best prepared group she's ever seen." After the incident, Maya had promoted Linda Rodriguez to Director of Flight Operations. Linda had been instrumental in redesigning the training program for pilots, with a new emphasis on customer service and cultural awareness. "And what about the customer feedback?" Maya asked. "Still trending upward," Alan said. "Complaints are down by 60%, and our customer satisfaction scores are the highest they've been in the company's history." Maya nodded, pleased but not surprised. When people felt respected, they responded positively. "Oh, and one more thing," Alan added. "The case with Frank Daniels is officially over. He dropped the lawsuit yesterday." Maya had been expecting this. Frank's case had been weak from the start, with multiple witnesses confirming his discriminatory behavior. Still, it was good to have the matter resolved. "Did he make any statement?" she asked. "Just that he wishes to move on with his life," Alan replied. "Apparently, he's having trouble finding another position. Most airlines have heard about what happened." Maya felt no satisfaction in Frank's difficulties. Her goal had never been to punish one person, but to change a system that allowed such behavior to go unchecked. "What about Allison Miller?" she asked. "She completed the retraining program last month," Alan said. "Her supervisor says she's shown real improvement. She's requested to be part of the mentoring program for new hires." This news did please Maya. Unlike Frank, Allison had acknowledged her mistakes and had worked hard to change. That was exactly the kind of transformation Maya had hoped to see. There was another knock on the door. It was Kelly, Maya's assistant. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, "but you have that interview with Aviation Weekly in 10 minutes, and they've sent over their questions in advance." She handed Maya a sheet of paper. Maya scanned the questions quickly. Most were about the changes at Horizon over the past 6 months. The last question caught her eye. "Looking back at the incident that sparked these changes, would you handle it differently today?" Maya thought about it for a moment. Would she? The decision to fire Frank on the spot had been controversial. Some people had called it an overreaction. Others had applauded her decisive leadership. "Let them know I'll be ready in 5 minutes," she told Kelly. After Kelly left, Maya turned to Alan. "Do you think I should have handled the situation with Frank differently?" Alan considered the question carefully. "You could have waited, followed the usual procedures, held meetings, formed committees." "But?" Maya prompted. "But then we might still be talking about what to do instead of celebrating what we've accomplished," Alan finished. "Sometimes you need a clean break to make real change?" Maya nodded. She had come to the same conclusion. Her phone buzzed with a message. It was from Denise Watson, who had recently been promoted to manager of cabin services. "Just landed in Chicago. The new crew is amazing. Passengers keep commenting on how welcome they feel. This is what flying should be like. Maya smiled as she texted back. That's what we're aiming for. Safe travels. She checked the time and gathered her notes for the interview. As she stood up, her eye caught the small plaque on her wall. It had been a gift from the staff at O'Hare Airport where the incident had taken place. It bore the words that had now become something of a motto for the company. Change doesn't always come from grand gestures. Sometimes it comes from simply insisting on taking the seat you've rightfully earned. The interview went well. Maya spoke honestly about the challenges they had faced and the progress they had made. When the interviewer asked if she would handle the incident differently today, Maya didn't hesitate. No, she said firmly. That moment called for clear action. It showed our employees and our customers that we were serious about change. Words and policies are important, but actions speak louder. The interviewer looked impressed. Under your leadership, Horizon Airlines has gone from being just another carrier to setting new standards for the industry. What's next? Maya leaned forward. We're just getting started. Next month, we're launching a scholarship program for young people from underrepresented groups who want to become pilots or aviation engineers. We're also expanding our routes to include more diverse destinations. After the interview, Maya had one more important meeting for the day. She took the elevator down to the main lobby, where a group of 20 new employees was waiting. These Atsuri were the first graduates of Horizon's new training program, and Maya had made it a point to meet each new group personally. As she approached, they fell silent, clearly nervous to meet the CEO they had heard so much about. Maya smiled warmly. Welcome to Horizon Airlines, she said. I'm Maya Johnson. A young black woman at the front of the group stepped forward and shook Maya's hand. I'm Zoe Davis, she said. I just want to say thank you. I've wanted to be a flight attendant since I was a little girl, but I wasn't sure there was a place for someone like me in this industry. What you did, it gave me hope. Maya was touched. This was why all the hard work had been worth it. There's not only a place for you here, Zoe, she said. There's a future for all of you. She spent the next hour talking with the new employees, answering their questions and sharing her vision for the company. Their enthusiasm and fresh perspectives reminded her of why she had fought so hard for change. Later that evening, Maya found herself on another Horizon flight, this time heading to New York for an industry conference. As she settled into her first-class seat, she couldn't help but reflect on how different this experience was from that flight 6 months ago. The gate agent had been courteous and professional. The flight attendants had been welcoming to everyone. The captain, a young Asian American woman, had personally greeted passengers as they boarded. As the plane took off, Maya looked out the window at the sunset, painting the clouds in shades of gold and pink. Sometimes change came slowly, through years of gradual progress. And sometimes it came from a single moment of truth when someone refused to accept the way things had always been. For Horizon Airlines, it had taken both, one decisive moment followed by months of dedicated work. The journey wasn't over. There would always be more to do, more to improve. But looking around at the diverse crew and the satisfied passengers, Maya knew they were on the right path. She opened her laptop to review her speech for tomorrow's conference. The title page read, Transforming Corporate Culture, How One Moment Can Spark Lasting Change. Maya smiled. She had a story to tell, and she hoped it would inspire others to create change in their own companies. After all, that was the true measure of leadership, not just changing your own organization, but influencing an entire industry. As the plane soared through the evening sky, Maya Johnson felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had taken her seat, not just on that flight 6 months ago, but in the larger journey toward a more just and equal world.